till the battle's won, till kingdom come. I'll never run. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty. Best to give me your loyalty, 'cause I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be calling me, calling me. They'll be calling me royalty.
Yes, good morning, dear viewers of Gaza Media. It's another weekend, and welcome to this program, The Voice. This morning, we will be presenting to you some of the issues that concern development in the BLM. Particularly, we'll be focusing on the bank development issues, and we'll be having a special guest that will be joining me here momentarily to discuss some of the crucial and some of the current topics that are now in the wave of the media sphere in Lebanon. And first, this announcement that I just want to bring to the attention of our audience, especially to the bank people, that the ceremony of the ceremony that is going to take place at the Mariupol Center on Saturday 15 is still as scheduled. So the bank road equipment blessing ceremony will take place at the Mariupol Center next Saturday, the 15th. But before then, the Fund of Fontem, His Majesty the Fund of Fontem, sent out a communique which is now in social media or in our platform as well, that he's inviting all the chiefs, became Lebanon to converge at Amazi at 8 a.m. on that same Saturday, prompt, 8 a.m. prompt, to have a traditional libation before heading to Mariupol Center in Vo. And he's also said that all sons and daughters of the bank who are able to be there should accompany. So I hereby say that in a nutshell, the Fund of Fontem is inviting the entire Lebanon population to converge at Amazi at 8 o'clock in the morning for the traditional blessing of the road equipment that were purchased by you Lebanon people. Then after that traditional libation, then everybody will move on to the Mariupol Center for mass service and the blessing by the Catholic clergy. That was it for this announcement. And then after that, we'll be looking at some of the leadership, because for the past time we have been discussing about the leadership in Lebanon. And, traditionally, Lekudu has been the developmental arm of Lebanon. And we'll be looking into that. And of course, we'll also be looking at the role that Lekudu USA has played in the development of Lebanon, dating back to the time of Dr. Ben or Mr. Ben Bezeju, who was the CEO, later on to Johnny Moore, whom these two, during the transition, they conceived the construction of the Fienge Bridge, which I remember Johnny Moore sending out a lot of communique, convincing people to see into it that this was the bridge that connect the upper Lebanon and lower Lebanon. And later on was CEO Emeritus Josh Tazi, who was also a transformative leader and used his expertise in the health field to really rehabilitate the Azi Hospital, which we'll be discussing more on what is currently going on. And of course, he will be giving off some of the leadership skill and what he thinks the Kudu general could look like, could structure so that they could better serve the bank. And of course, he hand over to Nkamkong, who later construct two bridges on the Ngundeng Azi road. And later on, Nkamtong who did the grading of that same road, and then transition to the caretaker. There was kind of transition leadership, which was not very effective. The caretaker came in and was just there for a couple of months. Then CEO Emeritus Ateren came in, another transformative, powerful transformative leader that has done a lot of things that we now see what is happening. And of course, it's now Ben Fomin Carlton who will be evaluating him and be questioning him and be holding him up to task and be watching keenly to see what his administration will be able to accomplish. Here at Gaza Media, we are not sponsored by any corporation or by any individual, and we do not pay allegiance to any other person rather than to the BLM people and to the bank people and to the grassroots people. So for this reason, we'll be asking that if you have been listening to us and enjoy our program, please, we would like to extend our coverage to all corners of the BLM, but we do need a little bit of support. So we'll have a link that any dollar amount, $5, $10, that will go a long way to help us. And we also want to appeal that if you are from the bank, you need to go and listen to the management policy summary that was presented by one of our reporter, Mary Safe. It is very important that the bank people understand the policy that is being put in place to manage the road equipment, which is a huge project that will benefit not only the bank but other neighboring fundum like the war and stuff like that. Right now, let me bring in CEO Emeritus, Josh Tazi, so that we can dive into some of this serious discussion. And I will urge you, please, stay tuned and listen carefully, because this is somebody who has been around the Kudu for many years, even right back when he was in Cameroon. He came here. You will be listening to him and what we can do collectively to make Lebanon a better place. Let me bring in CEO Emeritus Josh Tazi. Yeah, I always say, Brad Josh, my tongue is already tied to that name. You are welcome, CEO Emeritus. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ennis, and thank
Yeah,
and thank Gaza Museum for this invitation.
yes. Uh, Brad Josh, I know there's a lot that has been going on now. I think I think I should say it here openly to the Banpo and to viewers that there are some individuals like you that you do a lot of work, especially as I got some information, I have those information with the work that you are doing in JET with your other brothers and other people like your Beta Z and my own brother, Mr. Martin Teminu, in the school. I saw the material. They're actually using their resident for that premises. I think Gaza Media need to do an effective report to show what the sons and daughters of the bank are doing so that other people can also emulate. So I just say, let me put that an aside. But Josh, when you were CEO, right now we are talking about, we're seeing the hair campaign, which have had a lot of impact because when you are sick, there's nothing you can do. You can only do anything when you are healthy. And it was during your administration that the Azi Hospital was transformed to something that, we did not know. At that time, we did not have the media like this where we could actually go cover, interview people. But there were some images that circulated. During that time, you can only take a picture, go to Chang, develop it or whatever, and put it and scan it and put it on the internet. So, will you mind sharing with us how you conceived the idea and how you were able to do the amount of work that you did?
Dr. Ennis, again, thank you for this invitation to have this discussion because I think that Gaza Media has very much changed the platform, the reporting, the accountability, and open the eyes of the young people vis-a-vis in Calabar. I think Gaza Media and Calabar are doing things that were unthinkable nowadays, which I'm very much appreciative of. I allow a common man on the street, a common man in Binandu, who has a cell phone that they can charge and look at the video to actually see what others are doing to improve their lifestyles. Now, going back to your question, when I took over from Sir John Moore, a very, very dedicated son of the bank, I must add that the bank people have been very, very fortunate that every son and daughter of the bank in the United States has always had his or her heart in the bank and the physical body in the United States because we have, if you look at development across the spectrum in the bank, it has been initiated from the United States. I'm not bragging.
Yeah,
This
no, that's true.
um, maybe it's because we look at things very differently. But going back to the question of Azi Hospital, I saw the pictures, the recent pictures. I did not even believe that that was Azi because it broke my heart. In the following ways, during the war, the hospital was not even that in bad shape. A lot had been looted out, but the structure was still in place. To suddenly see somebody, quote unquote, a contractor, take off the entire roof to destroy the entire building, it was to me an absolute travesty. Now, when I was Lukudo CEO, I had the privilege, and I would say the luxury, of having President General Atta and his late Majesty Senator um, um, Phantom Jufua, who were two visionary leaders. And I kept in touch with them. The fund was very, very instrumental in whatever I did, either in the field of education or in the field of health. And those were the two areas that I concentrated my effort on. Um, the fund was very, very instrumental to working with project to see that even if we send a penny to Cameroon, that penny was well utilized. I must tell you that at the peak of my administration, the membership in Nokodo was at most 200 people. At most 200 people. 200 people times $100 gives you about 20,000. So that is how much money we could raise through um,
Membership.
employment dues. And you didn't have as very wealthy sons and daughters in the United States as you have today. We thank the Lord for that. But it cost us Lekodo USA $25,000 then. That was a huge budget. That was the biggest budget Lekodo has ever spent.
Yeah.
I must give credit to my executive then, which is Mbemba, Mbetandang, um, Dr. Julius Fomanga, Kamtongu, uh, Nico Fobla. Um, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. So we used to have rigorous debates. And so Kamtongu had just worked at the Mary Health Hospital. He worked at the lab at the Mary Health. He also owned a lab in Cameroon. So through his expertise, we were able to pick the best equipment for the labs. I mean, we bought digital microscopes. We elevated the lab at the hospital to a top grade class hospital in Cameroon then, which was 2010. Um, and in collaboration with Dr. Ojong, who was the resident physician at Azi, we did things. We bought an ultrasound machine, and this was a life changer because growing up in Cameroon and living in Cameroon, I never knew the importance of an ultrasound machine until,
Hmm.
and it never occurred to me whether there was one at Azi or in the hospital. Until I had a discussion with Dr. Ojong, and Dr. Ojong told me that we're having issues with being able to screen and monitor pregnant women. We are having huge amount, no, amount of or numbers of
Mm-hmm.
preterm miscarriages.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if we were to have an ultrasound machine, it would be very helpful. He also further said that hepatitis C, which is something that we don't think about in terms of Cameroon and in terms of Lebanon, is very, very endemic. And you know, hepatitis C, um, combine that with
Plus
alcohol. You're talking of
alcoholic, the
liver.
liver cirrhosis. Yeah.
And that's why the young people are dying and living the old is the combination of these two issues. So with the that ultrasound machine, he was able to diagnose and treat people with these conditions, people that have very serious liver cirrhosis, people who were at the verge of losing their livers. I can't tell you the joy I had. The first ultrasound of a young woman that was done with this machine was twin. She was pregnant with twins. You could see the
Mm-hmm.
face of the husband sitting by the bedside, and Dr. Ojong is using
This
the
machine to
ultrasound.
detect.
Yes, and His Majesty the Fund sent that to me, and it was I unfortunately I lost all the pictures of the celebration then, inaugurating the hospital. But
Mm-hmm.
that hospital was my greatest fear during the war because I
But
knew
no,
exactly.
just before we move to the war period, now your leadership when you were in the US able to work with somebody in Cameroon. I know you mentioned His Majesty the Fon of Fontaine, who was Fontaine G4 at that time. Uh, I think that you said the President General, Mr. Paul Aceh,
Yes, President General
who,
Porter.
who got monitoring this project because that something will come along the line because today we have that trust is no longer there in terms of you will raise money and talk with somebody and say, I want you to execute this project for me. I want you to do this. I want it done this way. Can we do it this way? And you understand the person and you do it together. How was
Yes,
your working relationship with the President General at that time?
and I must tell you that it helps. In the in based on what I know,
Mm-hmm.
I have an enormous respect for former President Aceh because he was doing this using his own money, and he single-handedly bought the equipment in Douala and took to Azi and make sure they were installed, make sure the staff were trained on how to use the equipment, both the
Yeah.
laboratory equipment and um, including the ultrasound machine, plus other things that we did. We also partnered with Legda USA, and Legda had donated three modern electric powered delivery OB beds. OB beds. Those
Mm-hmm.
beds you could transform them to a theater table, as well as you could transform them to a position that a woman can very much deliver a baby without going through strain, almost at a, a 120 degrees inclination.
Mm-hmm.
That would ease the and shorten the period of labor. So
Labor.
the Kudo USA, in collaboration with Legda USA, we got those equipments. Aziz had gotten acquired and installed an X-ray machine. Even though X-ray technology, you and I are looking at it today and saying it is old, but
Mm-hmm.
that time you didn't
Yeah.
have to
I
send
mean, we are
somebody.
talking 15 years ago, right? We are talking
Yes,
about 15
you
years
didn't
ago
have to
today.
send. You're looking at
Yeah.
2011. So yes, about 15 years ago or 14 years ago, you didn't have to send somebody from a Z to go to Mva to get an X-ray done. That the budget for purchasing that X-ray machine was not funded by Yokodo USA. It was funded by Minister of Health. And we acquired that budget through the collaboration of um, our honorable parliamentarian Foshu, Fonkanate in Yaoundé, They work in collaboration with the Kudo USA to get a 75. I think it was I don't 70, I don't know,
Mhm.
5 million or whatever amount that was then.
So that means in the nutshell, that means in the nutshell or in the past, there have been some good collaboration between the diaspora and the home base.
Oh yes, during my term of office, we ran from
Hmm.
2009 to 2013.
Yeah, because you were 2 term, 4 years.
Yes, I am the very first
Yeah.
two-term president of the Kudo USA. Our PM Foju hosted me in Yaoundé 3 times with my executive, 3 times in Yaoundé. So for
Hmm.
us to discuss what we can do to improve the lives of the Bang people. He was very, very constructive during my term of office. We had open discussions, we disagree, and when we agreed, we worked together. The same thing as
Okay.
President General Acha. President General Acha
Hmm.
I attended every convention that I hosted. I don't know
Yes, I
whether
remember one time. Yeah, I can't remember. I think there was a convention in Columbus where that time I just got to the US. I think that was my first convention around 2012 or 2011, somewhere around that time, in
there was
Columbus, Ohio.
there was a convention in Ohio, in Columbus, Ohio, that the Cameroon ambassador to the United States, the Cameroon
Yes.
ambassador to the United States paid his own transport and paid his own hotel and came. And if you see the picture on my shoulder, myself and Fawanje, who was the chairman of the board then, and the ambassador. So there was collaboration because we recognize that we cannot do these things without collaboration. And if you permit me to dive into that, sometimes we are very, very narrow minded in what
Hmm.
we think and do, and we shoot ourselves in the foot. I have never been a fan of saying that we will leave the government of Cameroon and do it by ourselves. It does not work like that. As every
I
time,
think yes, but and that is quite true because I think the one of the challenge that we have faced is because even today you still see that sometimes you still see our politician Honorable Foju, Minister Portason, helping in the port in the custom exit of custom clearance of the recent road equipment. I just think what have really polarized us during this period was this crisis that people have just kind of gone on the sideways position. But just let's look into more detail now. Coming back to Azi again, Community Development Association, the VDA. The Azi is a metropolitan area that include Inje, your own village, Azi, Atusa, and even Ndwale, Agonzi, and Mankem. All of these are metropolitan area. Do you think this metropolitan Azim metro area lacks some leadership across the board in community, non-governmental like the Kudu, and even representative in the government, like in the council.
um, I'm going to answer the question in three folds.
Yes, okay.
Let's recognize where we come from, our culture.
Yeah.
We, our culture is very much traditional. We are the younger generations. We have the money. We may not be able to, and it would not even be proper as I see it,
Hmm.
to abandon our culture. So the question becomes what is going on within the traditional leadership of the Kudo, no, of these villages that you've called surrounding
Hmm.
the valleys, Azi, and what has, which is, if you extrapolate that to the entire Lebanon, you will see that leadership is something that has to be harnessed very, very carefully.
Truly.
if you think that because the younger generation have the money, we should begin to impose to our traditional leaders. That is not the school of thought I come from. That is not how people behave. In Jad, we have Betazi, we have Bengara,
Mm-hmm.
and we have Mbewanja. These are our traditional leaders. Even though they are not there at Njad currently, they are part and parcel of Njad leadership. Whatever we are doing in Njad, as you mentioned in your intro, that the children of Betazi are doing this and doing that. We are doing that in consultation with and in agreement with Betazi and with the leadership of Betazi. We are looking for a day. I hope it comes soon. Then it goes back to being the subdivision that it used to be.
Yeah, in the subdivision.
His late Majesty Senator Phantom Juffa used to, when he came to during, one thing I must tell you is, growing up, we used
In the
to have
independent.
more cultural
we used to call it.
organizations.
We used to call it in the independent.
And the day that Phantom Juffa is coming to India, he says he's going to the subdivision, and we welcome him as head of the subdivision. So back to the question. I think the war has been one of the most destructive forces that the bank has ever seen. But we have to go back to it. As you see, we are doing in India. We're slowly coming back. You see the church. Yeah, it is in collaboration with Azi. I don't want to cut the people from Azi and
Yeah.
other the
No,
bank.
no, it's the Aziz parish. It's the Aziz parish area. So
Yes,
yeah.
who donated money. I must, coming off my head, I must thank His Royal Highness for one day. I must thank His Royal Highness for Minka. They are doing a lot to bring that parish to life. That is the kind of collaboration we need. Yes, I believe that, and in discussions, Azi is coming, Azi Development Association is coming up strong. It has always been there. And thanks to Nkeleban, I went through Nkeleban to find out who was my counselor at Njat. And we're working in the backgrounds. I have not brought to his attention the demolition of Azi Hospital, but I will. It is something that they have to look into.
Yes. Talking about yeah, these are some of the images that I want to project here again, so that our viewers should be able to really look at it. Because talking about the councillor, because I mentioned about the leadership in the metro area. I think there are 3 councillors from this area. You're starting from Mankem, Agongozi, Azi, Atusa, and Jet, that cover this area. So the question now becomes, who was responsible for demolishing? I've called it demolishing because that is no repair. If the roof is intact, but let me put this in perspective so that people know when these things happen. During when the Azi area, from the information that I've gotten from their president, when they were clearing the place and dry cleaning the hospital and cleaning the inside, even though most of the stuff were already looted, the roof and everything was still intact. When the bishop visited, that was last December, Azi, we all saw the traditional dance and everything that was happening in the palace. The hospital was still very intact, the roof was still very intact. This occurrence that happened between when the bishop left and now that we are talking, who is that contractor that will come in and say you want to do construction work and uproot this thing and put some wood plank to roof the place somewhere and abandon it? What will be the rationale?
If I may say this, Dr. Ernest, I believe Azi had, it used to be called Azi Center, was constructed in 1972. And up to 2010, when the Kudu did an upgrade, nothing had been done. And in 2010, as I said, in collaboration with His Majesty, the Kudu General President, there was an extension, there was a maternity extension that was also constructed and equipped. as I explained, with equipment from Legda USA and so forth, to the extent that I knew. One thing that I forgot to mention was in talking to Dr. Ojong then, I was made to understand that Azi Hospital itself had a trust, a development trust, funds into which were deposited in a bank account. And in talking to um, the chair of that committee then, which, if my recollection is correct, is Mr. Is Incumbent Charles. They used to get money out of that and do minor repairs. If this contractor felt that the roof needed to be replaced, it should not have been done this way. Now, taking down the zinc and everything and exposing the plywood that is used to seal the ceiling. Okay, if he comes 3 months after heavy rainfall and put his zinc or his or her zinc and say there was no money for the plywood, then the place becomes unusable. So this is an attempt, if not a plan, to completely destroy that building. And it is incumbent on our councillors, as as we say, even if there were development associations there, if the funds are coming from the council, then our councillors have to be able to hold to task
Yes,
who,
we have mentioned 3 councillors.
yes. So we have to go back to them. And given a short time, if they don't show up, then we are going to go back to Nkalabang and say, hey, help us investigate this. We may be able to, Lukudo can go to Dr. Foju, who has the committee to oversee all these projects, and say, hey,
Because if Dr. Foju is in charge of monitoring and evaluation.
yes,
He's the chairperson
because
of the
if
monitoring and
we
evaluation of projects.
lose those structures, we will never ever get anything close to that again. That is an absence of that hospital. From 2010, you used to have people leave Chang and come to Fontaine for treatment. People used to leave Douala and come to Fontaine for treatment. Mary Half Hospital almost went out of business because Azi was functioning at its peak with Dr. Ojong at the head. To see Azi
Yes.
that way, my Lord, may his soul rest in peace. Phantom Jufo will flip in his grave because that is never what he envisioned. He put his heart
So,
and soul to upgrade that hospital.
yeah, CEO Imaretu, one last question on this particular topic of the hospital. Last time I asked Honorable Dr. Foju that if you look at that area, right from the wall coming down to us, there is no integrated health center that is one, apart from Mary Head of Africa Hospital. We saw images from Wenchen that was constructed and abandoned. So all the entire population is so Tapwe and all that area around there, there's no health facility until you have to come to Mary Head of Africa. Coming to us, then if you transition, you pass us here at the Z area, you move off to Nkanji, Ilekong, and all of that in Bindia. The one in Bindia is not functioning. The one in Dungwe is not functioning. The one in Jinache is not functioning. It's all built empty, hollow structure like that. Because when I asked Dr. Fuji said the issue of insecurity. But just right now, there are military people at Azi that I believe if there's any contractor that is working there, that person should have some protection. And of course, there's no insecurity, there's no security concern as of now. Doesn't mean that we have been covering, we have reported that are trying to move around. There have not been any concern of security, threat to any development that I know of. And here is how we find ourselves.
I think we, as Anglophones in general, we have to accept one thing. If you try something and it fails, you have to go back to the drawing table. For a Labang person, for any Labang man, educated or not educated, at home or abroad, we have to go back to the drawing table. The idea that we are thinking that the Cameroon government will ever leave the BLM division without any military post is a fantasy. Look at the America that we are in. In my small state, in my small city of Columbus, you have the city police, you have the sheriff, you have my small Westerville at the outskirts of the city of Columbus, you have their own police. Anybody that lives in America and comes from Lebanon, no, we are surrounded in America. We are living like we are living in a military state. So to think that we would ever live without military in Cameroon is a fantasy. I'm not critiquing the war. I'm not saying it was a good idea or it was a bad idea. We tried. We did our best. We have to realize the sacrifice that our parents did. And Dr. Ernest, if your father ever shared what he did like my father did, my father used to trek from Jat to Mundane when Fontam de Fang, at the campaign to make Fontam de Fang, the West Cameroon House of Chief chair was done on foot, on bareback.
Mm-hmm.
The stories that my father relates to me, he's suffering at night with a flashlight and with a bush torch. Sometimes the bush torch goes out and he's in Mundane, area that is not familiar to him. We are betraying their sacrifices by allowing the bank to become a forest again and making an appeal to the bank people. Let's forget about the army. If we are not entangling them, I don't think they are going to come out shooting at us. We need to go back and do our homes. In terms of politics, you cannot have an empty constituency. I think a month ago for Chadin, I don't know whether it was for Chadin, I didn't know, could be wrong, was talking about the young people who are in the coast registering for elections and going back to the bank to vote. That was a powerful statement. That's somebody that understands politics. National cake is distributed based on population. We have completely abandoned the bank.
No, but yeah, that is, I mean, it's quite true. Everywhere, every development, even you, if you have to share food or whatever, you will check the numbers of people that you want to give them food, right? So I
Now,
think it's a
going
natural
back
phenomenon.
to Dr. Ennis, going back to the question of the contractor saying that insecurity has become um, an excuse for destroying the bank. Because how did he take off the zinc? People did that. Why did the people not put the zinc back? What kind of assessment? If he wanted to make sure that the roof was bad or intact, he didn't have to take out the zinc. He would have taken out a portion of the ceiling for people to crawl into that crawl space and look at the integrity of the roof. You don't look at the structure from the top. So the excuse that it is insecurity is a fallacy. But
Yeah, and I hope that our three councillors uh, are listening to us and they will put their head together and maybe see what to do with
yes,
this thing. And I also think that they should reach out. I think what is that name again? The medical district officer for, I think it's Fontaine region or the BLM sub region that cover that area should also be aware of what is going on here, and of course the mayor himself and the senior divisional officer, so that I hope that they are listening to us and I think people can begin to write petition. But
According
just
to
let me,
Cameroon classification, Azi should
yes.
have a medical officer, just like the war had a medical officer. And during when I was the Kodo the Kodo leadership, I used to rely so much on some of on Dr. Alemji. So Dr. Alemji understands how the process in Cameroon is. So they even though the hospital has been abandoned, they should have been already a medical officer assigned to AC. But I'm begging that all of us, we have to put our minds, our whole body and ears to make sure we don't destroy what has already been built so that we can continue to build from the foundation up. What these efforts are
Yes.
doing are destroying the foundation and making it
Yeah,
very difficult
definitely.
for us to continue.
And Brother Josh, let's talk about this leadership issue at the level of Lokudo. I remember we had a discussion about saying that it seems like the diaspora have more concern and more, they show more empathy to the bank itself. But even though throughout our conversation, as we have stated some facts here that the past leadership in Cameroon wasn't like that. Maybe when we did not have enough media documentation of archives to, but I think I'm glad that we revisited the era of Mr. Paul Ache and Honorable Foju, who were very instrumental in the development of the bank. But when you look at the current leadership, the President General having an interview saying in air that the 1,000 development dues are meant for him and his executive to pay transportation, logistics, go and attend meeting, hotels, and galvanize the bank people. What do you make of that statement? What was the idea of the 1,000 development due? It's unfortunate I cannot pull up his that clip here. I could replay it so that you listen to his own word.
I watched the interview, Dr. Ernest. I was heartbroken. And I can tell you, without even pretending, I said to myself, this was a set out to the young people. Because the Kudu USA began when I was already in America. I am the very first financial secretary of the Kudu USA. I know how much sacrifice the young people in America have done. I equally know how much sacrifice the past president generals in Cameroon have done. I was in leadership in America when Ndinkumalam Gregory, first treasurer of the Kudu General and President General of the Kudu General. I was already in U.S. leadership when former President Afu served. I was already in the Kudu USA leadership when Poacha served, and other people. To hear a President General say they collect money from the people and use it as transport, what is the purpose of the whole organization? It sickened my stomach. That brings I'm going to put this on the table. Somewhere around 2012, President Acha and I, we began discussing how to modernize Likudo, both at home and abroad. And given the modern technology, this platform that you and I are talking on, and people are watching from China to South America and everywhere else, we need to change the format of how the Kudo is structured and go to a board of trustee platform and have every branch send a member to the board so that we don't have a situation where we have a president general. We have the chairman of the board, and every member, that board can itself elect its own leadership. But every branch should have an input. It is not like we should be collecting money from here from America and sending to Cameroon. Maybe they are using it to pay their transport to go to meetings. Some of us, when we serve in leadership, as I said before, we cover the cost. We pay for the cost ourselves because there was no money. And in addition to paying for our own costs, we also donated money. I can tell you, my wife and I put in more than $5,000 of our own money when I served for 4 years. And every year, not only have I paid my development dues, attend conventions, and I give donations. There has never been a project in the bank since 1994 that have never contributed a dime. After former President Bissejoux built the bridge, repaired the bridge between Ja and Azi, in addition to um, revamping the hospital, upgrading the school systems, all the government schools, which were former to the Azi grammar school. I think there was one in Fossong. Making sure PTA, we contributed money into their
Yes,
PTA funds.
yes, I'm paying
Make
some
sure,
PTAs,
yes, to make
teachers.
sure those children the poor children were not left out because those schools, the government creates schools, and then the PTAs have to run the schools. And I visited most of those schools. We built a bridge between Mbo and Nanjanacha before I left office. The Kodo USA had done so much for the bank. And I thank every single son and daughter of the bank that contributes their money into the Kodo USA. We need to change the style and the governing of Lukudo in general.
You see, and that's why some people are saying that, like what you are really explaining, the structure, and I think this is a conversation that should be driving us where, or what kind of structure or what kind of idea, like some people are saying, yes, quite true. If you make it global, of course, one of the first things is this transparency, which you have mentioned, so that every brand you have your representative. So that any decision that is taken, the people take it back to their constituency and know exactly what is happening. Because the idea that the diaspora, especially the US, will contribute money and hand it over to the national executive in Cameroon to run it and only give you feedback. Then, when the president general say they are using money to pay their transportation, you see, it scare everybody. I mean, I think that is one thing. I think we should be having this conversation. But and I think, but people are also advocating that even if somebody want to become the president of the leadership, you are here mentioning how you spend your own money. Of course, I used to participate in some of those conventions. I saw what some of the things that goes on. Preparing, I remember one of the speech that you presented your budget. I mean, it was like a very powerful presentation. I think that was maybe in the dialect at the Kuru Convention in Ohio. I think we have come to the age, you may disagree with me, that I think people aspiring to become community leaders should come out and present their manifesto so that we see what they have been doing and what they can do so that we can equally hold them accountable as time goes on. And when you're coming,
Um, if you are very much interested in development, you want to find out why things are not working. And I've spoken to past executive members in Cameroon. Whether the accusation is correct or not, they always say the president of the Kudo Cameroon, the Kudo general is appointed. These are rumors. I have never been to any of their meetings. I don't know. I very much believe that we need to have, in order for the Kudo to have the kind of backbone that it needs to follow this project, because Poacha had actually articulated the idea that the Kudo should become an organization that would follow up contractors in the bank. I believe that discussion took place in 2012. We have to modernize Lukudo. We don't have to always think that the President General of Lukudo should come from Cameroon. With given the technology today, the president can be in China, the president can be anywhere. The president of Lukudo General, the President General of Lukudo should come from an area that should be able to provide more resources and more the bank from
Mhm. Yes, I think there was some network issues at this point in time. I think just probably, do we have a little bit of network issues? Yeah. Is it come from my own end or your own end? I think yes. I think we all agree that at least we should try to modernize. Yeah, for example, even also following the laws in Cameroon, the decentralization law that give local community or local organization, like cultural organization like ours, to be able to participate in the project, in the budget that the government is giving through the council to carry on project in rural area, so that our organization should have a say. They can monitor some of this. They can monitor some of those projects and give concrete report. I want to thank you so much, uh, at least for this time this evening. You know, like I said, I know you are still very active in the Kudu affair. You are even bought, maybe trying to advise. I saw last time, I think 2 years ago, you were given an award by Item Terence in Columbus. That show your dedication. I wish we have more people who are passionate and committed to the bank development. Any last word that you may want to say before then I can let you go?
yes, Dr. Ernest. I during President Atam term of office, I serve as the vice chair of the board. It gave me another insight as to how Lukudo USA functions. I must appreciate what President Atam did or continues to do for the bank. I must appreciate what Dr. Fetushang is doing and his team. It used to be a pipe dream that the bank can actually afford their own equipment. I must thank every single son and daughter of the bank. I was amazed to see how many the bank meetings in different towns in Cameroon go into their coffers and put out money for us to buy this equipment. I think if we continue in this spirit, we are going to leave Laban a better place than we inherited. We'll pass on a better Laban to our children, who will then pass on a better Laban to their own children. So I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish you well. I wish Ngaza Media well. You're doing a community service. I wish I had this when I was
See you.
Lukudo US president. I would have been able to do more, but I am happy you are putting all this effort towards the bank development, uh, shining a light in dark places. I also want to thank Fominka for Wenje Mbembuala on the other side of Nkatabang, being able to outline and outshine the dark places that are existing in the bank today. I think all this, if all of us work as one, there's nothing that we cannot do. So thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you, CEO Emeritus. It was our pleasure having you here this morning. Dear viewers, we have come to the end of this segment again. Next week, Saturday, July 15, all the bank people will converge at Amazi at 8 a.m. prompt, very early in the morning. Then there will be traditional libation before moving up to the Maripola Center and for the church service and the blessing of the road equipment. By then, we'll come to the end of this segment, and we'll please stay tuned to Gaza Media as we continue to bring you update of what is happening around the BLM and other neighboring community. Bye bye for now.